I was involved with Citizens with the Council Voluntary Service in Newcastle.
Yeah.
Back in the early 1980s. This is a long time ago, and I was approached by. I remember this woman came to me and she said that she'd had cancer, and she found very little support, and she wanted to do something. And she had this idea for coping with cancer to get people through it, because that's what you do when you've got cancer. You cope somehow, and so she was starting it from scratch, and it was such a brilliant idea. But at that time, there was very little for people with cancer, and it was still a taboo subject. It wasn't something you ever read about, and certainly people in the media never talked about it. And you were kind of left on your own, and it was very clinical.
Yeah.
A diagnosis, was that it? And you had to leave it to the professionals, and everything that the doctor said, and all of that. And there was very little for other people to come together. And that was people that had cancer, people that survived cancer, people that cared for people with cancer. And things like the hospice movement. I mean, St Oswald's is now a fixture of the North East, but then it was really early days. So so I got involved to kind of help them get sorted, this woman particularly, to get stuff sorted out. And they wanted to get it a bit more formalised, and so I actually was involved in writing the first constitution.
Wow.
Which, just to set out what was the organisation for, what were its charitable aims, the area it wanted to cover, and at that time it was very loosely just the North, and just a bit about the funding and who would look after it and where the bank account was, and just the basics. And I said, well, why don't you go for charitable status and get it properly registered? And that was a bit daunting at the time, and there's someone involved called Chris, who was, I think, he worked for them part-time, and we managed to get it sorted out anyway, and we got the charitable status through, and it was all registered. And I was really pleased to have been involved in it. The group's here, and it's doing fantastic work. Work that at that time, Reiki, I don't think it had even been invented in this country, we'd never heard of it. And things like alternative practices and just coping mechanisms that we have now. We think, well, they just happen, don't they? Well, in those days they didn't happen at all. So it's thanks to Coping with Cancer and charities like this that we have moved light years ahead, and now cancer isn't the death knell that it used to be. It's, well, it happens, and we just get on with it. So I've had breast cancer.
Right.
So I've been on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And I had, it's 10 years exactly, actually, since my diagnosis.
Wow.
And it is that awful feeling when you're told, you have cancer, and you think, what, why me? Can't be me. It can't really be me, it must be a mistake. And then you think, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to get through this? And it is through friends and family and everybody rallying around. Sometimes it's the kindness of strangers.
Yeah.
People that you actually don't know, and they can say the most amazing things, and they can just really get to what you need and just give you that extra word of encouragement or something and get you through it. I just think that payback is absolutely what I'm here to do, and I think that's what makes this charity so brilliant, because it's all to do with people helping each other and doing whatever people need to get them through this awful disease. I think it was basically to help people through cancer, and to try and make sure they got the best treatment available, to encourage them to get an early diagnosis. That was always part of it. And to support the friends and family, because it can be such a shock for them. Coping with cancer is that carers get that support as well, and that's massive to get people through it. Absolutely massive, that you've got enough space to let off steam, or to burst into tears, or to shout, or to just whatever it takes to get you through it is absolutely right. There's no set way of doing it. There's no script for this. You don't get a set of instructions. This is what you need to do, because every day is different. Every diagnosis is different, and every case is different. So this is where the charity comes in, because you've got the experience and the contacts and just the resources to do whatever's right for people and deliver it in a way that's right for them. And that might be something that's in a hospital setting, or something that's here, or a home visit. It just depends. Whatever's right for them. You're still living. You live with cancer. You cope with cancer, and you get through it in whatever way's right. And if you want to have a proper good laugh and a joke, then it's absolutely fine. Because there's no way of dealing with it. There's no right way of dealing with it at all. But equally, there's no wrong way. So if you feel that you want to just go out on a massive party or whatever it is, absolutely fine. Just go with the flow. And particularly, what the best advice I got on it all was just be kind to yourself. Whether you've got a diagnosis or whether you're a carer, actually remember, just take it easy. Don't push yourself too hard. Just think, you know what? I just want to curl up on the sofa and chill out and watch a whole load of rubbish on the telly. Or I just actually want to go for a big long walk on my own and I just want to get my head around things. Absolutely fine. Just do whatever feels right for you and make sure that you take time out.
Started working with Copeman Cancer about 5 years ago when I joined the Freeman Hospital. So I look after the Macmillan Sports Centre and we cover the Freeman and the RVI patients from all across the geographical area, so North Eastern Cumbria. And started working with them when I realised that the acupuncture service for prostate patients had stopped, and they were really struggling with the space in the hospital. Hospitals are always busy places, never enough room. So started working with the nursing team and a couple of their services to see where we could find a space, because I knew how much difference it made to the prostate patients. And once we'd done that, of course, we wanted to equal it up because we didn't want the ladies to miss out. So the breast care patients and other cancer site specific where there's capacity. So we got a nice room and started the acupuncture service. The difference that makes to patients as well, in terms of being able to sit and just talk about cancer or talk about their life, or not talk about, just be listened to in that safe space. Somebody who cares, but that's not going to judge them, doesn't know them, not going to get upset by talking about things like potentially dying or what happens if treatment doesn't work, and all those very emotive, tough subjects. Through that, we really built that relationship with the counsellors and with the organisation, expanded that. We've now got 2 rooms and the waiting area converted as well, nice sofas in there, nice colours, so people can see the transition between the very clinical hospital to our more comforting, this is, just for you, or just focused on you. It's not about your condition, it's not about your treatment, it's about what you want to talk about. And the counsellors obviously bring their expertise to that and takes a bit of pressure off my small team. That's just the 2 of us, and thousands of patients a year to see. So the acupuncture and the counselling have really sat side by side, and I would say of all of our services that we provide, they're the next biggest type of support. So first is the finance side and the money, which is understandable in these current times, but next biggest is that emotional support and the side effects and the management of that. And what Copeman Cancer bring is that extra, I suppose, added value to the hospital services. So we can do all the clinical stuff, we can do all the regimented must-dos, which is great, but people want sometimes a little bit more, which is what they bring. You've got different counsellors, and I think what's nice about it, we know Roy and we know Helen and we know other counsellors, so we can sometimes bespoke it a little bit and describe what Roy's like, describe what Helen's like, describe the people and say this is what they'll do, this is what will happen, because that's part of the issue or the barrier to people getting help. They don't know what that help's going to look like. Will they have to write anything down? Will they have to spell anything? What happens if you can't read or write? What happens if you have to pay for it and you didn't know that? So there's all sorts of things involved in that we try to take the time to explain and take them through it and match them up as well, in terms of actually think you would get along with male, female, whatever, and try and make that partnership or that relationship start off in the best possible way.
I got involved with Coping with Cancer in 2007, I believe it was, and Judith Woodruff was the person who got me involved. At the time we were both serving as governors at Tyne Met College, and I think she said, now this is a little job that I'm sure you will like to take on, and it won't take much of your time. So, she asked me if I would be the treasurer. So that's the role that I started in, and so I then became chair. My, I suppose, expertise is more on the accountancy field, and it was more in the administration side of the charity work that I feel as though I make some assistance. A lot of people obviously are affected with cancer. I lost both my stepsister and her husband both to cancer, and I sort of noticed the way in which they had difficulty coping with that situation, even admitting to the fact that they had cancer to tell you the truth. So it's clear that the organisation helps people to cope with whatever befalls them in the cancer journey. So I'm delighted to be a part of it. Well, it's a charity which is very close to my heart. I'm proud to be part of it, and I know it does help considerably for people who are on the cancer journey, and anything that you can do to help in that situation, it's from my point of view something that I want to engage in. Obviously it's quite prevalent. I think quite a large proportion of people will be affected in some way or another by cancer during their lifetime, and so it is very much important, I think, what we do and how we help. I think it has developed into a much more professional organisation as we've brought different people on with different skill sets to the governing body. That certainly has helped, and I think Maggie's quite a driving force, and she wants to take the organisation several steps forward, and I'm delighted to be part of helping in that direction. Certainly I think it will be a force to be reckoned with in terms of the cancer community, or cancer caring community I should say.
Hello, my name's Roy Sterling. I'm a degree qualified counsellor, and I've been involved now with Coma Cancer for 10 or 11 years, about now. I first started off as a student counsellor, and I got involved through a friend, colleague, who was already attached to Coma Cancer, and they were on my course, on my foundation degree course at North Tyneside College. And as a student, you need to find placements to do your counselling hours. And as a student counsellor at that time, you needed 100 hours. So you would look around for placements, hopefully get in somewhere, and by chance, through. Then she said, why don't you come along and talk to Judith Woodruff, who was the founder of Coma Cancer a long time ago. And I came along, got well on with Judith, and she says, yes, come and be a student counsellor at Coma Cancer, and that's really how I started here. Got involved with a few members who were there at the time, and I completed my 100 hours with Coma Cancer, and then I was asked to stay on if I would like to, and I certainly did, because I got used to the people working here, great organisation, and so I just carried on, and I carried on for almost 9.5, 10 years as a volunteer, and more recently I've been employed by Coma Cancer as a counsellor. Yes, so when I became a student counsellor with Coma Cancer, we had small offices up the West End area, which was fit for purpose at that time. But as we sort of progressed and expanded slightly, we then got offices down at Silverlink, and we were there for several years. And then more recently, 2020, Maggie Bailey got involved, and we have beautiful offices now at the Woodruff Centre, just outside, on the edge of Annesford, just outside Cromarton. Lovely facilities, lovely rooms. But also as a counsellor, even in the early days, I often worked out of hospitals, usually connected with the Macmillan Support Services, both at the Freeman Hospital and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Gateshead, where we'd see clients face to face. Occasionally, in the younger days, we were allowed on occasion to see clients at home for various reasons, but generally we'd see them face to face at the hospitals. Now, more recently, because of the COVID, as people well know, much more has been involved with telephone counselling. Yes, and one of the main things I find with counselling male clients, and it's beautiful when it happens, is when the client will say, wow, as a man, I didn't think I'd be able to talk about these problems, issues with another man. And that's a really beautiful thing to hear. And it seems it's becoming more common. And I think why that is now, there seems to be much general bit more knowledge about counselling. It's more acceptable, I think. You know, even just watching TV dramas, films even, counselling, therapy is more mentioned. So about cancer, breast cancer, just brought it home to me with my mum developing cancer. Various aspects of how it impacts you personally, how it impacts the family, and that became very relative, more relative really, to dealing with clients who are going through similar things. Yes, having counselled obviously both men and women to varying degrees, it's still outstanding for me, I think, is an aspect of particularly male clients who are able to express themselves, fully engage with counselling, which is lovely to see. But also that tends to have a ripple effect, that they're allowed to go out there and talk to their male friends and family members, and emphasising that it's really okay to talk. And it is important, I think, because it has been for a long, long time. That's one of the outstanding things over the years I've found. And I really think it's improving on and on, that men are able and willing to talk about things. And I think they do feel the benefit of that. And they can be helpful in their own right to others around them.
From helping out in the telephone answering services, I then left because I then went to work in Scotland. Mm-hmm. And I came back at the end of 1996, and in 1997, Coping with Cancer was bigger, and it was in Shield Field, had an office there. And funny enough, I just went to volunteer, and on the same day, Judith was going to be interviewed for, I think, manager of the role, which she got successfully. And then we moved to quite large premises in Killingworth. And because Judith had encouraged me, I went to North Tyneside College and did body massage, aromatherapy, reflexology, everything that was going, because she was very keen to have complementary therapies. So we started in Killingworth with the complementary therapies, and really it just grew. And we had rooms to do, and because Judith was very medically, politically well known, it was easy for her to get access into NHS premises. Very straightforward. So very soon we had rooms in North Tyneside, and Newcastle, I think, were the two, because we used to treat the children in Newcastle, and it was very interesting there. So the complementary therapy service really expanded, and Judith moved us forward until we were in North Tyneside, Newcastle, Sunderland. Even for a short while we moved into Durham and worked in Durham, and we recruited. And maybe it was just easier because people did night classes, if I can say, and so they did body massage, aromatherapy and things like that. Counselling, in actual fact, could take much smaller areas, and they were much easier to facilitate. And they were a wonderful group, and they really brought a newness which we probably needed at that time, you know, and give us all enthusiasm. But Judith believed very strongly in having highly qualified people, having them very noteworthy when she talked about them in terms of, you know, and to keep our reputation, we always had short courses, you know. Some of them were just self-brought on, you know, that we would say, right, all the acupuncturists would meet and we'd highlight different things and perhaps need to include something, because it's amazing what you learn from the people who are actually working on the ground and getting in and out of some difficulties sometimes, rather than what we think is, you know, sort of perfect going.